Why being cheap is so important. In the last couple of years, we've seen so many content creators and organizations tell you if you save money here, if you buy cheaper this, if you make coffee at home, blah, 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 you're going to be rich. Well, in this video, I'm actually going to give you fundamental frameworks and understanding both with data, the social and psychology aspect of it, and basically everything you need to know about why being cheap or relatively cheap is so incredibly important in your own success. And at the very least, the only reason to watch the full video is you cannot leave this video in a worse position than you started it. You will learn something and it will help you. And you might get mad at me. You might be like, oh, this was awesome, but you're gonna learn something. And I promise that. Before we get into it, the channel needs some love. I'm trying to grow the channel. It's absolutely free to click the little subscribe button below. All I ask of you is that, and maybe watch the video for the full time, but that's for you. For me, maybe just subscribe. It really helps me grow the channel and I would really appreciate it. And it's free, it's super cheap. But let's get into it. So if you watch people like Graham Stephan or actually just any financial content creator, they're telling you to save as much money as possible. And while I think this is absolutely important, you have to have balance. You have to enjoy aspects of life. I'm absolutely not telling you to spend a lot of money. I'm actually inherently a very frugal person myself, but I do like cars. So I spend a lot of money on cars. I also live in a high cost of living area, so my housing expense is probably much more than most people. It is very much like my monthly housing expenses is well into the high 3,000s, which most people are like, that's absolutely insane for somebody in their 20s, but that's just the reality of cost of living here. So I'm not super frugal myself. You know, those two assets are, where a lot of my paychecks and money that I bring in from entrepreneurial endeavors and my day job and consulting and whatever it is goes. But I still save money on other aspects of my life. And I'm gonna tell you a few things. So again, we're gonna look at the actual data and we're gonna look at the psychology. And the two are radically different. And I think that the psychology is something that nobody talks about. The data people talk about, but they don't really get into it. So quickly, because the data is easy, right? If you save money, it's better. Right? I mean, this is simple, right? If you save the money, you're gonna have more money because you didn't spend it. But what's really important here is that you save it and invest it. So I always like to use this rule of thumb that if you're going to change a habit to save some money, right? That money doesn't just live in a bank account. It doesn't just live in a checking account, right? Once you have your emergency fund, say the money that you save during some type of action to save it, right? If you're on a good budget and you're saving a little extra money because you're getting out there and trying to do better, that money goes into an investing account, right? And maybe you're just like making like a $6 transfer to Robinhood, or you changed your car insurance and you're saving 60 bucks a month. Every month, just throw $60 into a Roth IRA or up your allocation to your 401k. That's all you need to do, right? Because I think one of the big failures that nobody talks about is they save a bunch of money and then they just spend it elsewhere, right? The biggest goal here is to save and invest in yourself, in your future, in your retirement, whatever. If you could just make that change from a data perspective, that's all I ask. Maybe it's 1 cup of coffee less, throw it in there. Set yourself a goal to invest 100 bucks a week. You can cut that out of your life no matter where you are and what situation you're in. You can find $100. It isn't that hard, maybe work a little extra. So that's why being cheap is so important from a data perspective. And I could tell you retirement numbers and blah, 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 but that's more complicated than it needs to be. 100 bucks a week, save it, put it in investments. Don't just put it in a checking account, invest it somewhere where it's gonna help you retire. That's the only data you need to know. But here's the more important thing by far about why being cheap is so important. So life costs a lot of money. Everybody talks about inflation and things costing more money and it being harder to live and harder to afford things, and they're right. It is becoming more expensive, which means doing the things that you love to do cost more money. I don't care what your hobby is, what you like to do, it costs more to do it. And I want you to keep doing that. So one of the reasons that you should be cheap in your life is so you can continue doing your hobby. I think a lot of people forget the happiness about living. And although saving is good, personal finance is good, my entire channel is about how to retire early, be cheap, be savvy, and all those things. You need to be happy too. And one of the things that's really important is making sure you have the money to do the things that you enjoy in life. Saving money and retiring and being miserable isn't good, right? You should be happy. But unfortunately, because life costs more money, it's harder to do the things that you enjoy. So at the very least, what you should be saving and the reason you should be cheap around certain areas of your life are so that in certain areas of your life you can have abundance. And I'm the perfect example of that. I don't go out to eat, I don't buy coffee places, I don't drink, I don't do any of those things, but I love fast cars. I like building engines, I like tuning cars, I like diving. I go scuba diving in the Cayman Islands all the time. I absolutely love it. All those things cost money, but because I'm so cheap in other aspects of life, I can do those things because I enjoy them, and I'm not having to pull from savings. I'm not having to do all these extra things because I'm just saying I'm going to spend less money here and I'm going to put that money here, and I'm going to save the same amount on top no matter what the situation is, and make sure I hit my savings goals, I hit my investing goals, I hit my retirement goals, and all of those things. But I get to do all these like fun things in life. And you'd be surprised. There are so many people around you that are doing this and changing their psychology around how they spend their money and enjoying all these things that you might be looking at from your situation and say, how can they afford to do that? They must be taking out debt. Well, you'd be surprised. Well, maybe you're not surprised, and some of them are taking out debt, but you'd be surprised that more and more people, and the data shows this, more and more people are just adjusting how they live to do the things that they enjoy. And those things could be cheap, they can be expensive, whatever it is. I'm a firm believer of, like, let's say you like hiking, which isn't all that expensive to do. Be cheap somewhere else and get yourself a new pair of hiking boots. Do something for yourself. And you're talking to somebody that wants to retire early, that should cheap out in everything in life. It's important to enjoy the things that you do and enjoy the process of living, and not just get caught up in the, saving and return, in retirement and investing world. But that comes with a cost. If you need to be cheap in certain areas to live abundantly in other areas and still be able to save and have, financial security and financial freedom, those are all important things. But that's why being cheap is so important, because if you can be cheap in certain areas, you can enjoy the other areas. And that's the video, guys, because if you practice those two things, you're going to, one, be a lot happier. And then two, you're going to be able to watch the rest of the videos on this channel or any other channel that are going to entirely change your economic standing, right? My goal with this channel, and my goal of, I think, any finance content creator, is just to help you guys better your situation, right? I want you to be able to retire. I want you to be happy. I want you to be abundant. I want you to be able to pay for emergencies that you have. I want you to be able to have a retirement. I want you to be able to pay for treatment if you get sick. I hope that when I'm 65 or I'm 70, or hopefully I live till I'm 90, I can die and say that I made some impact on YouTube. Because honestly, guys, I don't get paid any money to create these videos, right? Maybe someday I will, but right now I don't. I've put out hundreds of videos and I don't get paid to do it. But I do feel good about the fact that some people come back and say to me, hey, I did what you talked about and I'm in this situation, and I feel good about that. And if I can change a few of your guys' lives with the videos that I make, it makes me a lot happier and feel fulfilled with my own life. And that alone should be a good reason for you to listen to what I'm saying, just because I'm trying to advocate for you guys. And I'm not selling a course. There's no paid thing. Please don't give me any money. There's no way to give me any money. The only thing you can do is free, is subscribe, and I don't get paid for that subscription either. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you can implement what I talked about and just honestly understand why being cheap is so important. Because I think a lot of people say, go be cheap, put it in VOO, put it in this retirement fund, but they don't talk about why. And they don't talk about the other aspects of why you need to be cheap. And while they enjoy it, Graham Stephan, great example. One of the most frugal guys that you'll ever interact with. And if you've ever watched finance YouTube, you've heard about Graham Stephan, right? But the dude balls out on his fish tanks, right? And I absolutely love that, but he doesn't really talk about that. He doesn't talk about the, I'm saving here so I can enjoy this one aspect of what I absolutely love out of this, planet Earth. And he gets to do that, right? Or his like Ford GT or whatever it is, right? He has these things that he absolutely just, I'm going to spend it because I enjoy it, right? But he gets to do that because he's being really cheap in other aspects of his life. Now he talks about that, but he forgets to add, enjoy the fruit of your labor. As long as you're hitting your investing goals, that extra is for you. Do it right. I'll stop it there. It's like you do a really good diet for 30 days, have a slice of cake at the end of it. That one slice of cake isn't going to mess up your 30-day diet, but you got to reward yourself. There are good things in life to come, and you got to make sure you're staying happy, or you'll never be able to meet the goals that you're actually setting for yourself. I'll see you guys in the next video.